You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Well, hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Zarbaugh.
And I'm Kyle Dobmeyer.
Yes, and today we are the Bible Guys because Jeff's out of town.
That's right.
And he's flying over. Where is he, by the way?
I don't know if we could talk about it. Isn't it like a secret?
Oh, yeah, you're right. He's in parts of the world that that are dangerous.
Yes.
But he's there because
He's helping with the Timothy Initiative,
Yes.
spreading the gospel. And I know that one thing he shared with me is that some of the doors that have opened the last couple of years are things that he has been praying about and their team's been praying about for years. And God has allowed them to go into areas where the gospel was not present before. So it's really cool.
Yeah,
the stuff
very
he's doing.
cool.
And his wife's with him. So that's awesome, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
nice.
Bonnie actually traveled with him this time.
Yep.
And
She's keeping him safe.
yeah, well, I'll tell you what, she's a brave soul. Now, would Kristen like to do that? Because my wife would say no, ultimately.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she'd try it going once maybe, but I don't know. I don't think that would be a normal. I don't think Bonnie is. Bonnie's different. She's built different, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to that, that's for sure.
Yeah, Liz would
Good
say, no thanks.
Yeah, good for you. Pray for you.
Good for you. All right. Well, hey, today, before we jump into the book of Nehemiah, which is extremely exciting, we're going to be learning all about Nehemiah, building the wall. And obviously, that's a pretty famous story for the Old Testament. But before we dive into that, we have a segment. And the segment is written by Desiree. And it is Queen Desiree, and she says, guess the word. Let's see if Kyle can guess the key word based on the clues from Chris. While Chris avoids saying the italicized words, Chris also gets to determine how many points that Kyle wins.
Nice.
Okay, so
you get to determine the points.
Yeah, so each one that you win is worth 1,000 points.
Okay, and I just want to prep the viewers who are listening. I am awful at these types of games, so this is going to be bad. You're going to be yelling they're going to be yelling out loud. They're going to be like, this guy is an idiot.
No, it's going to be great. and if you're watching on YouTube, then hopefully we're going to have the words on the screen that I cannot say.
Oh, okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
All right. The first one. If you want to put your knickknacks in something so it doesn't chip, what do you put them in?
It doesn't chip?
When taking them from house to house.
Duffel bag?
No.
Knickknacks? Purse? House to house.
You secure them, before you put them in the box, you secure them by wrapping them in what?
Foil, wrapping them in...
No, what's the fun stuff?
Oh my gosh.
You get it at U-Haul.
Oh, shrink wrap. Bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the word, bubble wrap?
Yes, the word bubble wrap.
Sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't say pop.
No. That was good.
I couldn't say pop, plastic, packaging, bubbles, or shipping.
Okay, gotcha. Bubble wrap. All right.
Yeah, I sorry, man. I could have done a better job.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 500 for that.
500?
I'm just kidding. You get 1,000. You got
500 points.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
When a person throws balls up in the air repeatedly, that is called
clown.
Juggler. But what is he doing?
A juggling.
Yes, a singular word. Juggle. Yes, okay. That's correct. So
okay, that's good.
I wasn't allowed to say circus, hands, catch, toss, or rotate.
Okay.
So juggle. Yep, that's it. So how about this one? Ready? In Emperor's New Groove, Emperor Cusco turned into a
donkey.
No, you don't know the cartoon.
Oh, I love the. What is it?
Did you ever see Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
Remember he goes, Tina, eat your dinner. What was that animal?
Llama.
A llama. That is correct.
Love the Napoleon Dynamite reference.
So 2 references from movies.
That's good.
I wasn't allowed to say animal, spit, alpaca, wool, or South America.
Okay, good. Hey, that was good.
Yeah.
You went to 2 movie right. That helped a lot.
Yeah. So, dude, you said Emperor Cusco turned into a donkey?
Dude, it's actually such a good movie. I just could not remember what that animal was.
Yeah, Cusco. Yeah, it's such a good one. All right, here we go. It's one of my favorites, by the way.
Yeah, I love it.
How about, gee whiz. Okay, what do you put on hamburgers that are green and crunchy?
Hamburgers that are green and crunchy. What do you put on? Oh, that are green. Okay, lettuce.
That's one thing. What's the other thing? Yeah, pickles. That's right. And
pickles and onion
in the jar.
Okay.
It is soaking in
juice, pickle juice.
Yes, pickle juice. Right. That's right. I couldn't say sour, vinegar, cucumber, brine, or drink.
Okay. Hey, dude, you're doing better than I am. I'll give you 1,000 points.
No, so far, dude, you got 4,000 points. So
4,000. Let's go.
All right. The last one is this. Oh, gee whiz. Okay. Old people don't keep together their New Balances with strings, but rather with
New Balance with
strings. Another way to
tie your shoes.
Build a New Balance wouldn't be with strings, but with what? Old people do it all the time.
Oh, I don't even know. Velcro?
Yes, Velcro.
Velcro, okay.
Yes, I wasn't allowed to say...
The word was Velcro?
Yes, I wasn't allowed to say shoes,
okay,
strap, stick, rip, or fastener.
Dude, wow. I've got to be honest. I think you did better than I did. I would not have thought I would not have thought old people. That was really good.
Yeah, well, I couldn't say like new. I couldn't say shoes. I said New Balance, and I couldn't say
Yeah, but even still, I think I'd end up trying to make sound effects or something if it was me and I had to describe Velcro.
I think it's against the rules.
Probably.
Yeah, I think motions and sound effects are against the rules.
Gotcha.
But at least if you're doing taboo rules.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, so I got 5,000 points.
Good job, buddy.
Woo!
Yeah.
Let's go.
I wonder how many listeners.
I bet you we have some pretty sharp people. Yeah, they're probably on the road just like, that was easy.
They're like, God, it's Velcro, man.
Velcro, easy, old people.
Well, hey,
or maybe they're rocking Velcro shoes. So,
well, hey, guys, thanks for playing along. And we are now moving into the very exciting book of Nehemiah.
Yes, love this book.
What's so funny is the listeners got Jeff and Wesley last week.
Nice.
And now they're getting Chris and Kyle this week.
Nice.
So, and you guys are definitely the most present besides Jeff and I.
Yep.
You're the most present on the Bible, guys.
Yeah. And if you're watching this from home, I didn't realize until I stood when I got here today, I look like a referee today. So if you're watching this, or if you're not, even go back and watch. I'm wearing my referee shirt, and then Chris is one of the Daily Bible guys. He's representing.
I'm representing.
He's representing.
As if people need another logo.
Yes. You just need to get one with your face on it. So just face.
Yeah, there's like logos surrounding us. So, all right, buddy. So here we go.
Yep.
Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 1 through 11.
Yep. And we got some words that are going to be fun to say here. So be patient with me. Nehemiah, starting in chapter 1, verse 1, says, "These are the memoirs of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. In late autumn, in the month of Kislev, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes' reign, I was at the fortress of Susa. Hanani, one of my brothers, came to visit me with some other men who had just arrived from Judah. I asked them about the Jews who had returned there from captivity and about how things were going in Jerusalem. They said to me, 'Things are not going well for those who returned to the province of Judah. They're in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down, and the gates have been destroyed by fire.' When I heard this," it says, "I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned, I fasted and prayed to the God of heaven. Then I said, 'O Lord, God of heaven, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of unfailing love with those who love him and obey his commands, listen to my prayer. Look down and see me praying night and day for your people Israel. I confess we have sinned against you. Yes, even my own family and I have sinned. We have sinned terrible by not obeying the commands, decrees, and regulations that you gave us through your servant Moses. Please remember what you told your servant Moses. If you're unfaithful to me, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands and live by them, then even if you are exiled to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back to the place I have chosen for my name to be honored. The people you rescued by your great power and strong hand are your servants. O Lord, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those who delight in honoring you. Please grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. Put it into his heart to be kind to me." And it ends by saying that in those days, I was the king's cupbearer. It's a quick 11 verses here, but it's a lot here.
Dude, Nehemiah is obviously writing this first person.
Yeah.
He's the king's cupbearer. He is a Jew. And here he is, inquiring on the people back in Jerusalem. Now, let's remind our listeners that the Babylonians captured Jerusalem, and it was the Babylonians' reign, and then the Jews were exiled. And remember, back in the book of Daniel, 538 BC was the Persians coming in and taking over the 539 BC. The Persians came in and conquered the Babylonians. And then it was actually King Cyrus who was king of the Persians, who decided to say, hey, any Jews who want to go back to Jerusalem can do so. And not everybody did, but a lot did. And so, and then we went through the book of Ezra, and obviously we saw, some Jews like Mordecai had not gone back. But in this case, here's Nehemiah. He's still a cupbearer to the king, and now he's cupbearer to a new king. This next king is Artaxerxes, and Artaxerxes is king of Persia. So here's Nehemiah, very prominent, right?
Yep.
Now, even though you're a cupbearer, you're sort of like a servant, but you're also revered as, somebody who I'm sure people bowed to him. Yep. He had great respect. He had great command. And I would also imagine that he probably, based on what we're going to read in chapters 3, 4, and all that, that he was a person of great leadership, right? Yep. So he had prominence, right? And this was a great position for him to be in.
Yeah. I think that for me, there's obviously a few different, just in this first chapter, a few things that stand out. But I find it interesting because Nehemiah is seen as somebody who kind of steps in, kind of fills in the gap there, steps up and says, this is something that God is calling me to do. But really, it starts with a couple things that stand out to me. For one, it says that when he heard the news, he sat down and he wept. It says, for days I mourned, I fasted, and I prayed to the God of heaven. There'll be a recurring theme throughout pretty much the entire book of Nehemiah where he, in times of crisis and struggle, where he pauses. It says that he wept. It's interesting because it doesn't shy away from this emotion that he had, that he himself said that I wept, and then he said he mourned, he fasted, and he prayed. And so prayer is something that is like very prominent throughout this entire storyline. You see this person who obviously, like you were mentioning, he's got a higher position of prominence, to have the ear of the king, but at the same time, he ultimately goes to the King of Kings all the time to pray. But I don't know about you. I'm sure like you probably taught on this story a ton, but I know one of the things that always stands out is that weeping part, right? The fact that it actually broke his heart that his people were living this way, that the walls of Jerusalem were torn down, and that they were essentially wandering. They were essentially lost. Yeah. And that fact that he cared so much about his people. Yeah.
It's interesting how so many times in scriptures there's different examples of people's heart breaking for something. Yeah. So I'm not nearly as well traveled as Jeff, right? Yeah. But I've been to maybe, 15 countries. I've been to Egypt and India, and I've been to, Brazil and Israel and Costa Rica and Cuba and Haiti and all those things, right? So I've been to those places, and I've seen a lot of things, and it's really interesting how, even though that we had a lot of global partners with our church, and I was always pretty moved by, especially Cuba. I think Cuba probably was the thing that moved me probably the most of all the global partners from my previous church. But when I came to Heritage Church about 4 years ago, I was invited to, I'm just talking about my heartbreaking. Yeah. I was invited to the Dominican Republic to go see a college buddy of mine who's involved in anti-sex trafficking. He rescues underage girls from sex trafficking. And it's just one of those things where, I'm exposed to a lot of things, a lot of injustices, a lot of, really bad things. And all I had to do was just talk to a girl who was rescued. And then we drove the streets of this city, and he was, sort of giving us a tour and showing us sort of the workings of that area. And my heart just broke, and I just wept, and I think to myself, like, okay, God weeps all the time, right? So for everything that I'm placed in front of that is bad, that is sinful, that is a result of sin and brokenness, God weeps for all of it, right? Like when I was in India, for example, and Egypt, they discard their elderly. It's pretty crazy, right? And even though I was moved by that, I wasn't heartbroken the way that some people were. I was like, wow, that's just awful. Yeah. But nothing like when I went to the Dominican. And then all of a sudden now, of course, for those who know me, I'm on the board of Transform One. And by the way, it's a good opportunity to say, go to transform1.org, transform1.org, and hey, just donate something, become a hero. A hero is, $49 a month or whatever it is. So anyway, bottom line is, I just want to talk about the fact that probably many people could have heard, hey, Jerusalem's walls are in ruin. Your ancestral city that your grandparents used to live in is unprotected. But Nehemiah doesn't get moved, I don't think, by the fact that he knows, his cousin lives in Jerusalem. Oh no, my cousin's going to be unprotected. Nehemiah, I think, is moved because of God. Yeah. Because what does he do? He prays and says, even my family is guilty. We have sinned against you. And he's not referring to his immediate family sinning currently. He's referring to his lineage. He's referring to the big picture. He's saying, I realize that I've heard this, Jerusalem's walls, they're a remnant of what they once were. The whole city is a remnant of what they once were. We were a great nation. We were a nation that represented you. We were a nation that once was serving you. And now all of this destruction and banishment and exile and scattering, listen, our ancestors have all contributed to this. We brought this upon ourselves. He's taking responsibility for his own lineage. And he's saying, even my family has done wrong. We have all sinned. And then he quotes this promise. And dude, it's one thing to read it and say, oh, Nehemiah believed the promise. But it's another thing to be in that situation. Yeah. Right? Have you ever been in a situation where things seemed completely hopeless and you're thinking, there's no way this is going to work out? And then you're sort of forced in your faith to believe a promise? Yeah.
Yeah, especially for him, considering what he had witnessed, what he'd gone through. Yeah, no, I love that. True. You're right. The fact that he goes back, talks about all that, and then talks about the fact that God was going to rescue them. And then he believed that God was going to hear his prayers.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And he quoted a scripture, and he said, so the promise in here is that if you return to me and obey my commands and live by them, and even if you're exiled to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back to the place I have chosen, my name be honored. Yeah. And so think about it. He's hundreds of miles away, and he's believing this promise from, a couple generations ago and he's thinking collectively as a whole nation. This is how we know he's a great leader. He's thinking not for himself or for his, families in Jerusalem. He's thinking as a nation, as a people. Yeah. He's like, if we as a people came together and returned to God, then God will bring us back. This is what Jerusalem needs. This is what the temple needs, right? This is what God. It's time for your name to be restored. So Nehemiah has this incredible vision. Yeah. And so let me just say this: don't ever underestimate the vision that God has given you. And it may seem way too big for you, right? It may seem like it's just a pipe dream. It's like, who am I that I should be able to be a part of something to accomplish something so great? How could I transform my workplace for Jesus? How could I change my family culture to go to church? How can I start praying at meal times or whatever it is? And how can I start to become a person of faith? And you think maybe it's too big of a dream, but don't ever underestimate that vision, because God can use you one step at a time to change a lot of things.
Yes. And I would even say, if there is somebody listening to this, I'm sure there's everybody listening to this is feeling like maybe a little bit of motivation on this to step into the gap. And we're going to see throughout the life of Nehemiah, through this story, how God does grant him favor. But also, it all started with his heart being broken. So I just want to ask to our listeners, what breaks your heart? What situation currently, like Chris was mentioning, he goes to Dominican Republic and his heart broke for those people. But I imagine that wasn't the first time. It's probably been dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of times. I know in my life, hundreds of times where a situation, whether it's a family member or, even for me, I would even say when I was brand new, before I even felt called by God into ministering to people vocationally, I was a small group leader to high school students. And I remember there was a certain type of student that I was God broke my heart for them. There was just certain students I was like, man, I just feel like these kids are lost right here. And I remember the youth pastor at the time, when he met me, he was like, hey, you seem like you can get along well with these kids. and that they like you, they respect you. Would you mind playing basketball with them? And it was those exact kids, the ones who were far from God, the kids who maybe had, on the outside were one way, but on the inside were struggling and hurting. And God broke my heart for them. And over the years, there's been many other situations where God legitimately broke my heart for a person or a group of people. And so don't neglect that nudge that God has, or maybe just the interaction you have with those people. Even my wife, and I know your wife has gone to some of my wife's classes before, but she does a faith-based yoga nonprofit that she runs, where she goes and they do scripture reading and, essentially workout class, but it's worship, scripture reading. And my wife, since she was younger, has always had a heart for those with special needs. And when she started doing this, God opened the doors out for her to go and lead these special needs classes. And she's like, this is literally like heaven on earth. She's able to be, it's just chaos around her. I mean, they're worshiping God, they're lifting their arm, and she's like, this to me is like heaven. I'm giving them for a moment, an hour, to just do something different and have fun. Like that is, but God broke her heart at a young age for that group of people, and then has opened the doors up. We have listeners, I'm sure, who have a heart for a certain, struggle. Maybe you can be helping those who are less fortunate. That's why maybe serving in something like a food pantry or Transform One and being a hero in that. Like God, don't underestimate the fact that God has put that person or that group of people on your heart.
Yeah. That also reminds me, as you're saying, what is your heart break for? My mind always goes back to SHAPE, SHAPE, that acrostic. So Rick Warren a long time ago came out. In fact, there's even a test where you can go online and just Google it, and Saddleback Church, and the SHAPE stands for SHAPE, stands for spiritual gifts. You can go online and actually take a spiritual gifts test and realize you're gifted in some area. And then H stands for your heart. And the question is exactly what you just said. What does your heart break for? Where does your heart lead? Because for different people, it's different things, right? I was also a person who my heart broke for teenagers, right? Back when I was coming out of a really difficult situation as a teenager, which is the reason why. And then A is abilities. So God has given every single person abilities, just natural abilities. And people who are super great at football, for instance, they usually become chaplains, right? Yep. Like Luther Ellis from the Lions. Yeah. He retired from the Lions and he became the chaplain for the Denver Broncos, and now he's a coach. And so now what he does is he does ministry. Same with John Kitna and the previous Lions members that have come and gone that I'm familiar with through our friend Dave Wilson. And then so abilities, natural abilities. And then P stands for personality. God has wired you in a certain way, and based on who you are, based on some personalities have this have like a pastoral, caring, sort of like counseling heart. Some people their personalities are not that way, but that can play into it. And then E is your experiences. What experiences have you had? For instance, my wife, many people don't know this, but my wife and I had 2 different miscarriages between my first and second child, and it was hard on me, of course, but not nearly as hard as it is on a mom. And I tried my best to be right there with her during that time. But even now, so many years later, goodness, how many years later? And she still has a heart for people who go through that. Yeah. Because of her experiences, right?
And she probably can minister to people in such a great way because of what she went through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even, what is it, Corinthians, I think, that tells us that we should comfort others with the same comfort that we ourselves have received from God. And so, but that's based on experiences. And so sometimes your experience can determine your ministry. Yeah. And that's a great example of that. So again, if you're interested in that, go online and Google it. It's called SHAPE with an acrostic. Rick Warren. Spiritual gifts, heart, abilities, personality, and experiences. And Nehemiah is a great lead into that, because he's going to be called to this very specific assignment. Yep. And we're going to find out that God has used all of those things in his life to perfectly and strategically place him to do this job.
Yep. I'm excited for tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's about our time. So hopefully we will see you then on the Bible Guys.
Yep. See you.